Whether we're in a school environment, a nonprofit environment, a hospital environment, there's all kinds of different ways that you can be working with young people. Ultimately, I think we kind of share the same goal. We want to create better humans. And to do that, we have to be able to model what that humanity looks like. And we've all been there, right? You show up to work, if you're in a school, maybe you're there at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And before the kids have even gotten settled into their first class of the day, you know what it's like for whether the bus pulls up or maybe if it's in the adults that you notice in the hallway, they're already flustered, they're already stressed, and the kids are picking up on that. And before we can even have a chance to get our day started, it feels like we're behind the 8 ball. If you can relate to that and you've been in a situation where you don't know how to even catch up and be able to get people settled into their bodies before they can get into the spaces that they need to be in to learn and to be able to teach, to be able to provide therapy, whatever service it is that you're providing, then in this video, I would like to show you how 3 routines and specifically being able to think through those. And those routines are the start of the day, the transitions that we have throughout the day, and then a post-incident routine. So something's happened to create rupture that needs repair. How do we do that? And being able to think through those things as a way to give you a map or a roadway or a pathway toward regulation in your building. There is a lot of recent research that shows that predictability in a child's daily routine is not only just healthy, but it can directly be related to their ability to regulate their nervous system, which can put their brain in an ability to feel safe and ready to learn. Studies like this one show that predictability in a child's daily routine is directly associated with a host of positive child outcomes, better self-regulation, social emotional skills, and better mental health outcomes. And that also goes for adults, right? So what we're going to do is walk through this tool that we've created, this regulations routine map. And we're going to give an example of what it could look like in your building. And then you can download, if you choose, the example worksheet, and then you can also download a free version of the blank worksheet to use with your staff. So let's start with the beginning of the day. What we're going to do is we're going to think through every core routine moment that shows up in your program day and really answer 3 specific questions. What are the students supposed to be doing during this time? What should the adults in our building be doing at this time? And what does the environment need to make a successful experience for everybody that's involved? So beginning with the start of the day, students should be, as we see right here, greeting or checking in with staff. Hopefully we'll be developing later on with some of the other processes that we're going to talk about, situations where we make sure that every child in our program, whatever that looks like, that there's at least one adult that is checking in with them regularly to make sure things are going on. And hopefully once those relationships are built, the students will be doing that on a proactive way too. I know in the work that I'm doing right now, we have specific times for one-on-one therapy sessions. And then there's also those moments, especially at the beginning of the day, where now that the relationship has been created, those kids, especially the ones that I'm working with more on a one-on-one basis, they come in and they look for me. And they want to have that check-in to create that safe relationship touch point at the beginning of the day. It helps to regulate them to know that what they're going to go through, the things that they're going to experience for the rest of the day are going to come in a little bit better way. And then it's going to be a little more predictable. And so, kind of speaking of predictability, the next thing you're going to see on this checklist is to engage in predictable opening activities. I've been in schools where, a teacher may have a classroom circle or just kind of a regular check-in at the beginning of the day. Some mentorship programs that are within or small groups like communities and schools, they may have somebody that goes around and checks in with a student at the beginning of every day. I like to have some kind of morning routine at the beginning of every program day that not only is involves things like goal setting that are more cognitive cortical activities, but also an emotional check-in that is something like really just like, how are you doing today? What emotions are coming up for you today? Think feelings wheel, emotions wheel, mood meter, things like that. It gives you great information that you also have to be able to be flexible and be nimble with, because you're going to learn, how is my staff doing today? How are my students or my clients or my patients? How are they doing today? But once you get that information, are you going to be able to be flexible enough to maneuver with that and actually go where they need? And so you have to be able to think through that. And at the start of the day, adults should be greeting students by name. If you're the leader in the building, you should be greeting the adults by name when you see them, checking in with them. This next one, and this is huge, y'all, we have to be able to use a calm tone and model regulation. Just remember, the students in my classroom, the staff that are reporting to me, are not going to be able to function on a regular basis at a brain state or a state of regulation that is higher than what I am walking around with. So if I come in, living out of my brainstem in a completely dysregulated mood or completely dysregulated body, the kids that are working with me are going to model, or they're going to mirror that. It's just the way it's going to work. And then we also should make sure that we are following a consistent and visible flow. If you've worked around kids for any amount of time, you're going to probably shout amen when I say this, but they thrive on consistency. They thrive on structure. They need it. And if we get out of that flow, they know it, and they start to wonder what's going on. So we want to greet students by name, use a calm tone, and follow a consistent schedule and flow. And some of the things that help with the environment: calm entryway, how does it feel when you walk into your building? It definitely helps to have a visual schedule posted. And then different regulation stations. Where I'm working now, we have, like a sensory room where if a kid gets dysregulated, they can go and just kind of get themselves together there, take some time in silence and stillness. There's some fidgets in there. There's some sensory items in there where they can kind of get it together. So those, that's an example of the start of the day. The next part of this worksheet that we'll go through is our transition routines. It's really important to think through, how does your program handle transitions? For a lot of different types of brains, a brain that has experienced trauma, a brain that may be dealing with ADHD, all kinds of different things. And honestly, just for anybody, it's good to have some predictability around transitions. So you can walk through that and see what the examples are. Things from, being, kind of thinking ahead, having a plan, giving a clear preview to these young people of what's coming next. Narrate the transition with a calm tone. Be very clear. Give simple choices. Things like that, they can really help. And then lastly, what happens after something happens? How do we repair a relationship after rupture or injury has happened? And do the students know what that process looks like? When something goes awry, and it will, we are still humans. We work with the best intentions possibly, but we are going to do things to let people down. Kids are going to do things to let us down. They are going to hurt each other. And even within our staff, we are going to do things that cause relationship injury. And what's the process that we follow that is a fair process, an equitable process that allows people to get back to that relationship, to bring people back into the fold if they have caused harm? And there's some great examples on here, but the key is to think through this with your staff and make sure that you have a plan in place, that you have a fair process in place. And what you can do now, and what I highly recommend, is you can use this worksheet. You could do this on, a whiteboard, but think through, how does this look for your team? Because I'll tell you, regulation doesn't happen on accident. We can put plans in place that we can follow on a regular basis. Now, are things going to go awry? Absolutely. We're in the business of serving other human beings, and it definitely will. But thinking through it, ahead of time, putting some of these clear processes in place can go a long way for you and your team to ensure that you have a safe and regulated program. I hope this is helpful. We're going to try to start doing more regular versions of this, where every month we'll have a video with some kind of tool that you can take and utilize in your school, your nonprofit, whatever kind of program it is that you are trying to go out and serve the world with. Honestly, if it even makes you 1% more trauma informed, that would be the goal.